Hello, welcome to this final video in this opening move strategy guide series. So we're going to be looking at the US in this video. So I used to have quite a lot of trouble as the US, knowing what to do, what to build. I think more recently, as I've been playing more, I've gained more experience. Obviously, I think I have less trouble than now. I think it boils down to a very simple choice, really. If you go east or west, basically. If you go to Japan or Germany, I think your choices and the choices of the factions in the first round are going to help you make that choice, depending on how well the British did in the in the Atlantic, also in the Pacific. For example, if you'd lost here quite badly and you'd won here, then I think a logical choice as the Americans would be to focus down here and try and build transports and hit the Germans, because you'd be more set here, more ready to do that. But again, it's up to you. It's not going to be, the opening moves here are not going to be standard across all your games, because obviously you'll have a different board than this one. It's not going to be the same board every time, so you've got to be flexible, adjust as you need to go, as you go, and react to how the board's already sitting at the moment. So the way it's looking now, we've obviously won here in the Pacific that battle. We've lost a lot of troops here. We've only got one cruiser left, as the British, but the Japanese didn't attack our fleet in the Hawaiian Islands, so we've got this available. So for me, I'm going to focus down in the Pacific. I'm going to try and hurt Japan. So my standard opening in terms of going for Japan, it's very similar. I mean, it's for Japan. I think I like to have more attacking units, because obviously their fleet is going to be pretty dominant. If you're going to go east, there's very rarely going to be a German fleet to stop you. I find the majority of the time the Germans are going to be focusing purely on land. You do see occasionally them build some sort of fleet up here near the Baltics, but if that happens, I prefer that, because obviously it means they're taking valuable IPC away from attacking Russia. And I do feel, after all the games I've played, that attacking Russia as quickly and hardly as hard as you can as Germany is the most effective way to do it. So if you start spending IPC on water, I think that favours the Allies personally anyway. That's what I feel. So let's just have a look at this sea. So yeah, as in this game, we're going to go towards Japan, so we're going to go westward. So we're not going to focus anything down here. If you've lost these two transports here, which is very likely, I think that's a pretty standard opening move from the Germans, is to take out these two transports, then you may want to replenish that and build two more, just so you can get these troops moving and possibly reinforce Africa. That's totally viable, and a good idea. You may want to move this cruiser up here as well to support that, obviously, because you don't want to lose them. You can lose them, you can just throw them away, but because the main objective is to get those troops, across there. But I suppose if you can protect them, it's a better idea. So what you may want to do, if you've got some naval support from the British still available in the Atlantic, you may want to park them here. So when those transports move up to drop troops off in Morocco, you've got a bit of naval protection from the British. That's probably quite a good strategy, and that will free up this cruiser to move back towards the main fleet, which you're going to be massing in the Pacific. So yeah, that's an option definitely. I think as well, if you weren't, for example, if you're doing what I'm doing now, sorry, if you're going to go for the Germans, sorry, I'd just make sure you got a fleet. You may want to move all of this back across here, come through this gap here, and bring everything back, and just have one big fleet in the Atlantic. Then you can start building, transports. You want to basically get a system of transports up and running in the Atlantic. So you want to have, say, 3 or 4 moving out, ready to land, more likely in France. And then you want to have a spare, 3 or 4 transports with troops waiting to come. It's normally 3 groups of 3. That's a fairly common one. So you'll have 3 here, just drop in France. You'll have 3 waiting more, and they can keep just churning out. And then obviously once these ones have landed, you can bring these transports back and pick up troops and so forth, and you get a nice little sort of, a convoy system. I would say as well, a good technique, particularly as the Allies, is the sort of the 1-2 punch with Britain and America. It's more effective if you're doing a landing in France, particularly if they've got troops in there, to attack with the British first. The reason for this is obviously you look at the order of turn. If you attack as the Americans, the Germans are going to have a turn before the British do, so they're going to have a chance to overwhelm the American forces. It's going to be an easier battle for the Germans, and then you're going to have to attack as the British with, again, definitely a stronger German force than you would have to. If you attack with the British first, there's going to be no chance for the Germans to do anything before the Americans can have a go as well. So if you're landing, say, in France that's got a garrison, you can possibly, you know, even if you don't win the fight as the British, you're still softening up the defenders for the American landings. So if you can, that's definitely the best way to do it, is to use the British first, coordinate obviously with the American player. British first, land in, and then you can reinforce the Americans. Obviously, if you've got any fighters as well that you're going to be bringing across, which you should have, you can obviously put them into France as well, because they're a great defensive unit, fighters. It just makes it that much harder for Germany to break you down. But the end game, if you're going for Germany, is to have a constant ferrying of troops across. So you're going to keep hitting Germany with an idea of this is obviously going to keep the pressure off Russia, because they're having to spend resources in Germany particularly to keep retaking France, or keep reinforcing themselves. So Russia's going to have a much easier time if you are attacking this way. So it's definitely viable. I've still not found the best way to do it, as in, obviously I think it, as I said before, it depends a lot about how the board is already set up, because obviously you want to play to your strengths. If you're strong in the Atlantic, play to those strengths, go for the Atlantic. If you've had some luck in the Pacific, go there. But if the board was even, I still don't know what's the best way to go, Germany or Japan. I think they both can be very effective. Recently, as I said, I've been going for Japan. I think I mentioned in my British video that my end game is to have an industrial complex set up on the East Indies and Borneo, with both the British and the Americans, and sort of, just churning out troops. I think either way is viable though, because obviously if you take out one of these superpowers, then you're probably going to win, because one on their own, they can't withstand the remaining allies. Even if Russia's dead, Britain and the US combined are going to be it's going to be a tough challenge for one Axis power to deal with. So either way you go, it's totally fine. So we've talked a bit about the eastward attack. So this way, we're going to go west though. This is my preference. So westward, battleship, aircraft carrier, and transport. This is only if this fleet is alive. If this is destroyed, I'll probably focus more on attacking units before I build the transports, just so I can set up a bit more of a fleet. The logic behind this particular build anyway is obviously I want a battleship. Battleships, if you can get them massed, are extremely powerful. If you get a fleet of battleships going, particularly if the enemy don't have any, you're going to be so much stronger than they are. It's just that one trait for the battleships, they can tank a hit without being destroyed, is huge in a battle. It really is huge, especially if you've got other units that are sitting, in the fleet as well. The battleships can just tank everything, and you can just be constantly hitting, everything else and destroying things, but you won't be losing anything yourself. So if you get battleships massed, then you might have an invincible fleet if you can get a big enough number. So yeah, battleships are a fantastic unit. Expensive, but well worth it. The second aircraft carrier is obviously to support all my fighters. I've got 4 fighters in the region. I've got 1 here, which is going to be moving over, this one here, and then these 2 here. So we'll have 4 fighters. That obviously gives us more offensive powers as well, particularly when landing somewhere. It gives us the option to use 4 fighters in the land attack as well, which can be very useful. An extra transport, because obviously we want to be we don't just want 2 land units, because obviously if we're shipping over here trying to take the Philippines or Borneo or East Indies, we want more than 2 infantry, because these can very easily be lost. You want at least 4, because obviously you're going to be taking some hits. You might have to move them around in various places before we can get this industrial complex set up. Once this is set up, we'll have the ability to make troops, more freely in a nearby area. But until then, you want to be just, give yourself a little bit more safety. So I build, a few more. Well, have 2 transports moving over as opposed to 1. It's much better. So that's it for the combat, the purchase phase. The combat move, there's not really much you can do here. Obviously, America in this sense it's a fairly short turn as the Americans. There's not a lot you can really go for, to be fair. If these transports somehow survived, I would highly recommend using them to take these 4 units drop them off in Morocco. It's going to ease the pressure on Britain and just make sure you secure this African continent. These IPCs are really valuable to Britain, so as the Americans, if you can help them out by securing it, then that's a good thing. And it's, you know, you don't need these troops over here to transport. We've got 2 here. We can also pick up this infantryman here and this infantry here as we're going towards the Japanese islands, so we don't need any more troops to, you know, send over this way. That's totally fine. So for combat move, yeah, that's about it really. If you'd lost a fleet here, obviously you want to be counter-attacking and taking out everything you can. Apart from that, there isn't really you'd be re-attacking. Possibly here, if you had some infantry here, you may want to move them forward and just harass the Japanese a bit, force them away from the away from India. But in this particular scenario, we've lost everything we have, so yeah, nothing we can do really there. So we'll end the combat phase. No combat, obviously. Non-combat. Now, I'll just talk about some of the troops. The bomber here, it's an option obviously to ship it straight over to Britain, and then you can start doing bombing raids against Germany, which is totally viable. I think when I go for Japan, I've started to move this bomber back this way, so I'll actually use this in the attacks. Obviously they've got a huge range. 6 is a very useful range, so I can hit an awful lot of things around here. Obviously Australia is helpful because I can just, you know, I can go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and drop them off in Australia, so it can hit a wide range of things around here. So I normally bring this one back over to the Pacific, and just it's an extra unit, a very good unit of that as well. A very aggressive unit I can use just to help out with any attacks I might have. What I normally do is I just move everything back for a turn, because we've got to move the fleet as one anyway, so I might as well have everything in one place for now. So I'll move everything together, put everything there. Obviously move the transports into the water, because we know we're going to be putting an aircraft carrier in there at some point. May as well move this down here. He's normally fine there. It's a slight deterrent for the Japanese to go for this now. It can be a hassle if they go for this. They sometimes do. But it's fairly easy to mop up, because you'll be able to build troops here, block them off, and then finish them off. It's not too much of a concern. These are not very valuable places. You want to take them back, obviously, but they're not too much of a problem to deal with. So yeah, it's not bad. Yes, that's about it. We've got no fighters to move here, unfortunately. Normally, I think just judge this one. If you have this fighter alive by this stage, just judge if you need it in Russia or India. These are the 2 most valuable places to have it. You could try and ship it back up here, but I don't think that's effective. I think it's better used defending something. So if you think Russia are particularly weak, then pop it in West Russia or something, or, you know, India's obviously a good one. So judge it in your own games, but I would definitely use it as a defensive unit anyway to guard somewhere. Defending on a 4 is extremely useful. That's obviously as well, because it's quite a high IPC unit. The way the defensive system works is that all the other defenders will be killed first, and that the fighters will be the last to die in the automatic rolls. So yeah, they'll be hitting on 4s for quite a while. And that is about it, I think, for the non-combat. Move everything back. Yep, end phase. So we have all our fleet together now. I'm going to deploy a battleship, our cruiser, aircraft carrier, sorry, and transport. So next turn we'll be free now to move out. We'll be starting moving down here. I'll probably move here, in this slot here, because it threatens an attack on Japan, but also the Philippines. So you're threatening a double move here. So they've got to kind of, you know, sit somewhere to cover this. I'll really be trying to get them out of position. At this point with the British, I'll probably be trying to save IPC to deploy some fleet later on, because you want to have a combined effort here between, you know, the US and the British to try and just take out this Japanese fleet, basically. As I said before, having an extra battleship is extremely useful. If you can outnumber your enemy in battleships, you're doing extremely well, because obviously they're such a powerful unit. So always try and... The Japanese now will probably be trying to match the American fleet, and that's going to divert resources away from taking India, which is good. But yeah, if you can get a number of battleships massed, then you're doing extremely well. So aim for something down here. I wouldn't I don't think Japan's possible to take straight away because they can defend it so well so quickly. In one turn, they can drop 8 infantry in there, and that immediately limits the possibility of, you know, attacking it with 4 infantry plus if you fight is not practical at all, because these infantry are going to be defending on a 2, and there's going to be at least 8 of them in there, probably a lot more. So attacking Japan is not really practical. If there's an opening, if they're bad, if the player's bad enough not to defend it, then go for it. If you can take it, with a good probability take it, definitely. That's always the best move. But normally you'd see it defended pretty well, and you'd have to see something down here, Philippines maybe. These two are extremely valuable. These are going to be my prime target. Taking the fleet out and also taking these islands are going to be my objective now, is the Allied forces. So that'll be what I do. You notice I didn't build 2 transports this turn. I think getting this fleet moving is the priority for the US. We want to get them to the fight as quickly as possible. So to that end, we've focused purely on this western side. Next turn, we'll have some IPC free. We've got 40 free to spend. We'll have 41 actually. So we can put 2 transports in here to get these guys moving, and then also, you know, put more fleet in the sea over here. The idea with the IPC from now on is the Americans is to keep reinforcing this region. So more battleships if you can, more aircraft carriers, more aircraft, everything you can do. If you need more transports, if you run out of units, if you fail to attack some places, then keep reinforcing with units. You want to keep the flow coming, keep the pressure on the Japanese for as long as you can. But that's it. That's my Round 1 Guide series complete, really. I may do some more videos in the future with sort of ongoing strategies, or, you know, if you find yourself in a difficult position, what to do, kind of thing. You know, if certain scenarios keep popping up that I see on ranked games that it might be worth talking about, I'll probably do a video on that. But yeah, anyway, let me know if you like the series, or this video in particular. Leave some comments with strats and things that you do yourself. I'd love to know about it. And thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.